Hello and welcome to Genevora's running commentary number 40. Today I'm going to talk about vibrations, about vocal fold vibrations. This is what makes the sound, is the vocal folds coming together and apart, colliding in the airstream, in the larynx, as the air comes through. Sounds simple. It's quite a feat of coordination because the vocal folds need to get going as the air is coming through. Now, the easiest way of doing this is to start with a glottal onset. E, uh-oh, those sort of sounds. Then we're using the muscles of the larynx to bring the vocal folds together, hold them together, then the air comes through. So we do step one, and then step two is the air coming through, and we get that click as the air bursts through the glottis. Another way of getting them to come together is to start the air first. And we have an aspirate onset, he, hoo, hey. And there we set the air flow coming through, and then the muscles bring the vocal folds together, and as they come together, they start vibrating in the air that's already moving through. The trickiest one is the simultaneous onset, which is where the muscles bring the vocal folds together, and at the point of contact, the air starts to move. So that's coordinating two quite fine movements in the body. That's easier if we start with a glide, if we start with a w or a y, because that little obstruction in the vocal tract, the w from the lips and the y from the tongue, just builds up a little bit of back pressure in the vocal tract immediately above the vocal folds, meaning that the air pressure below and above the vocal folds is a little bit more similar, meaning that the way the vocal folds vibrate is going to be a bit easier. There's less resistance to overcome. So they get going, they get vibrating a bit more easily. What is that resistance? That resistance is the fact that the vocal folds are made up of tissue, of flesh. And that's still, in the vocal folds, it's sitting still until we make it move with the air. So anything that needs to get going takes a little bit more energy initially to start that movement. It's like starting to pedal a bicycle, or getting the engine of a car going, or just giving something a little bit of a shove to make it move. It takes a bit of energy to overcome that inertance in the body. So the vocal folds take a little bit of energy to get that vibration going through the tissues, through the layers of the tissues, the epithelium on the outside and the lamina propria layers more internally, and then of course the muscle itself, which gets vibrating also. So to get that movement going takes a little bit more energy. That is going to be more difficult if they're slightly swollen. Now, why would the vocal folds be swollen? They may be swollen because we've been using them a lot, and that collision, as they vibrate, will tire them out. How can you tire out a tissue? That constant collision, constant movement, after a while, will cause a little bit of damage to the cells. Now that's fine, that's perfectly normal, and they're expecting that, and they're really good at mending themselves. But the process of healing in those cells brings a little bit of fluid. Any cut or burn or trauma to the tissue in the body is healed with extra fluid coming into the cells and around the cells. So that slight swelling means that the surface of the vocal folds is a little bit heavier and stiffer. So it's going to be more difficult to move. That means that that initial energy needed to start the vibration is going to be more difficult. We're going to need a bit more energy, and to get that coordination right, it's going to be a bit more of a clunk. So that is why when your voice is tired, it's more difficult to get that clean onset, that clean simultaneous onset, where the vocal folds come together as the air moves through. That swelling will go down. If you rest, it will go down with various other things you can do to help. I've addressed that in other talks. But it will get better pretty quickly. If it doesn't get better in a day or two, then you maybe need to think about what's going on in your lifestyle, what may be adding to that problem. It is also possible there may be some pathology there on the vocal folds, which means that the vocal folds, again, don't come together easily, don't vibrate very easily. But if you've got a healthy voice, then they should come together easily and vibrate easily, and then the magic of the sound happens.